So as we look here in the Word of God in Proverbs chapter 6, the Father saying to his Son here in verse 1, he says, "My son, if you've become surety for your neighbor and given a pledge for a stranger." Surety to your neighbor. So your neighbor owes a debt, or maybe your neighbor is getting into a debt and you co-sign for them, or you say, I'll help you pay that debt. And you think to yourself right now, well, that's kind of a foolish situation. Why would you do that for a neighbor and have given a pledge for a stranger? If you don't know that stranger, he's a stranger. You don't know if their intentions are good, if their intentions are bad. You don't know if they're going to hold up their end of the deal. You don't know them. Then they're a stranger, but yet you've given a pledge. You say, well, how in the world would you get yourself into that situation? Well, people do these things all the time, and it's very foolish. But when you look at this, you see exactly how this individual is going to get himself into this situation. He says in verse 2, it says right here, if you've become snared with the words of your mouth, they've been caught with the words of your mouth. You've been snared by the words of your mouth and caught with the words of your mouth. Now, remember that in the ancient days, not like today, where words are meaningless, words have no value. If somebody says they're going to do something, that nobody really expects them to do that. The politicians giving us all the promises, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And everybody already knows they're not going to do those things because they don't have integrity. But yeah, here it is in the ancient days where a person's words mean everything. And so without thinking, without understanding, just with loose lips, they spew something out of their mouth and they become surety to their neighbor and a pledge to a stranger just by allowing unwise, not thought out words to just spew out of their mouth. And maybe as soon as they say it, they think to themselves, why did I say that? Well, why did I speak those words? Maybe they went home and they told their wife, hey, honey, guess what I did? And she looks at him and says, are you a fool? What in the world did you do that for? This is going to bring us into ruin. Why did you do that? Now, he goes on and he tells them how to get out of this. He says in verse 3, he says, "Do this then, my son, and deliver yourself, since you've come into the hand of your neighbor. Go humble yourself and importune your neighbor, and give no sleep to your eyes, nor slumber to your eyelids." So humble yourself before your neighbor, and don't waste any time. Don't allow any sleep to come until you get this thing taken care of. In verse 5 says, "Deliver yourself like a gazelle from the hunter's hand, and like a bird from the hand of the fowler." So you found yourself in this trap. You need to humble yourself to get out of it. Be humble about it. You're the one that got yourself into this situation. Your neighbor didn't, the stranger didn't, you did. And you don't need to waste any time. You don't need to get any sleep until this is dealt with. It's going to ruin you. And you need to do everything you can do to get out of this trap. Just like the gazelle, just like the bird that the hunter is coming after. But the best thing to do is use wisdom and not get in those kind of traps in the first place. Think about what you say. Think about the words that are coming out of your mouth. Don't speak half-heartedly. Don't speak without wisdom. Don't speak without wise counsel. Don't speak without wise understanding. The understanding of the Word of God. And when we do that, we're not going to get ourselves caught up into these kind of traps in the first place. Understand our words are not contractual today, and our words aren't weighty today, but our words can ruin our testimony. Our words can ruin our credibility. Our words can ruin our integrity. And if you have gotten yourself into that situation, humble yourself. Don't have any sleep until you get it dealt with, until you get it corrected. But let's begin in the first place by speaking wisely. And speaking as God would have us to speak, and not speak half-heartedly. But use godly wisdom to speak wise words that are going to enhance our integrity and our testimony. and give glory and honor unto God.